Now let's take a closer look at objects. I want to talk about object properties in general so that when we start to talk about each one of the types of objects inside of AuthorIt, these properties are going to make more sense to you. Each object, even though they serve a different purpose in the AuthorIt library, whether it's to be a container for objects that you want to publish, or whether it's to display a graphic, or whether it's to be a topic, they will all have the same types of properties associated with them. So let's take a look at those properties now. All right. Oh, we've got a question here. Can books contain other books? Yes, absolutely. The reuse strategy is to use master books inside of subbooks. We'll actually be talking about that, I believe, in day 3 in greater detail. But as you go through your exercises, you're going to find that there are books inside of books. It's a great way to bundle up objects that will be used together across multiple books so that it makes that bundle of topics more portable from book to book. But yes, definitely can do that. All right, so let's talk about our first property. That is the object code. Now, just like everybody's got a belly button, every object's got an object code. That object code is unique. It's non-modifiable. You can look at it and appreciate it, but you cannot change it. It always increments by 1 every single time you create an object in the library. And if you delete an object, that object code is not reused again. So object codes just keep increasing higher and higher and higher the more that you work with your objects. Now, the beauty of an object code is that it is a unique identifier, so you can search by it if you wanted to. If you're using context-sensitive help, it can be the code that you call when you link your help topic to your system. It's a very helpful code. And as you use AuthorIt over time, you may find that you start speaking in object code. In other words, hey Steve, can you go review object code 827? Steve would log into the library, do a search on object code 827, and then get the topic that I wanted him to review. So very handy number unique identifier for your objects. Now, all objects also must have a name. We put that name in the description field. The description field is not viewed in any of your publications. It's just what you see internally in the library. So you can use a special naming conventions, prefixes, suffixes, whatever makes sense to you in your labeling system inside of your team. Completely up to you. But your object must have a name. You cannot save that object unless you place something in that description field. And you can always go back and modify the description later if you change your mind. Alright, now all objects will also be associated with an object template. Now here's where our designer role steps in. Our designers have created templates for each type of object in our library, and each template serves a particular purpose. That template assigns properties to that object, properties that we don't want our authors to have to deal with. All right, we want to make our author's life as simple as possible, so we'll create these templates that when assigned to objects, they will then inherit all of those properties inside of that object so that the author doesn't have to go through and set any options up inside of the object. They just have to enter in their content. All right, we just want authors to focus on the content and not on the properties. Now, one way to assign a template to an object is from this General tab that you see here and in this template drop-down list. Now, when you first create an object, you are asked to assign a template to it. You can change that template. You don't have to get it right the first time. but you should be using templates when you are creating objects inside of the library. And this is one of the ways to assign a template to that object. As we get into the Authorit library, I'll show you different ways that you can assign a template to an object. But templates, very important because they are what enforce your consistency and standardization. All right. All objects will also have these little output checkboxes here. Now what these output checkboxes mean is that this object is allowed to be published to these three types of publishing categories: print output, help output, and web output. All right. Print output applies to Microsoft Word and PDF. Help output applies to our various help formats. Web output applies to such outputs as HTML and XHTML. So we basically categorized all of those different output formats into these three categories. Now, if an object has this print checkbox enabled, then that means when you publish this object to Microsoft Word or PDF, that object will actually be published. If the print checkbox was disabled, then that means this object would not publish to that output. If this object was in a book that you published to Microsoft Word, this object would be ignored, as if it was never in the book to begin with. So these checkboxes govern whether this object appears in that output format. All right? This will be very handy for you if you're creating documentation where if you publish the book to one format, you want a certain set of topics to publish to Microsoft Word, but perhaps you want to hide some objects because they only pertain to your HTML output, or vice versa. So you can use these checkboxes to your advantage to allow objects to publish to an output format or restrict them from publishing to that format. All right. And you'll also notice we've got a print checkbox here. We've got a print tab there, help checkbox, help tab, web checkbox, web tab. All right. And we're going to talk about these tabs in a few moments, but just keep in mind here, if this checkbox is enabled for print and you publish this object to, say, Microsoft Word or PDF, then whatever properties are in the print tab are then applied to this object. All right, so essentially one object is set up for each of your three publishing categories. All right, every object is set up to publish, to print, to help, to web, and that is how we can single source that content. You have that one object, but it's already got the necessary tools in order to publish to any of your output formats. All right. Now, all objects will also have a version control option. We'll be talking about version control either end of the day tomorrow or on day 3. Version control is something you can choose to use inside of Authorit. But if you'd like to look at the version and the version status of an object, that is also available here inside of that object as well. And you can also choose to turn on or off object edit history. The edit history is basically track changes on an object, and you can actually revert back to previous revisions of that object if you'd like to. And you can view that edit history from inside of the object as well. There's actually many different ways you can view edit history. This is one of them.